I would stay in shape. I moved myself from Marina Del Rey in California to a place called Fullerton, California, where all the Flex magazine photo shoots were taking place. And I slept on a sofa for a year and a half, turned up every single day at this gym. And I was the squeaky wheel. I'm in shape.
I'm ready.
All these guys who are under contract getting paid a lot of money by we do a turn up in horrible shape.
Yeah.
And they getting paid a lot of money to be in shape. So I turn up, I was like, this photographer would go nuts all the time. And I was like, hey,
I'm ready.
I'm test shots.
Yeah.
And in the end, he was like, okay, Welsh kid. Didn't even get the chance to learn my name. Come on, Welsh kid, jump in. And 3 months later, this little image popped up in the Flex magazine. And that was enough for me to be like, okay, things are moving now.
Welcome to the Excellence Project. My name is Eric Worre, and today we have 7-time Mr. Olympia Flex Lewis on the show. We're going to talk about everything: excellence, artistry, physical fitness, mindset, what it takes to be great. I think you're going to get some great lessons from this conversation. It's an extended conversation. I even asked him for some coaching on my own journey. So with no further ado, let's jump right into my conversation with the one and only Flex Lewis. Flex Lewis.
Wow.
How you doing?
It's great to be here, Eric.
It's great to have you. We finally made this happen.
Finally.
We live 15 miles from each other, and we've been threatening to do this for, 6 months or something. Derek Fay connected us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Said you were you guys were buddies, and he used to be in the bodybuilding world. Now he's more fit businessman versus a superstar bodybuilder. You are 7-time Mr. Olympian.
So,
and there's categories of this, right? There's 212.
Correct.
You're 7-time at 212.
Yes, correct.
And there's what are the categories, just so I understand?
So the big boys, which is open class,
whatever,
unlimited.
Yep.
And then there's the 212, which is what I competed in.
Yep.
And now there's classic physique, men's physique, and then it goes into different divisions for the women too, which starts off with bodybuilding, physique, wellness now, which wellness is a whole new division.
What does that even mean?
Basically, it's the combination of, well, you look at the girls from South America, they're born with big legs.
Yeah.
So they couldn't find a place on stage. They didn't fit into any different category. So this has become a category in itself for girls with bigger quads, muscular quads, but kind of more of a bikini upper body. And then underneath that then is figure, fitness, and then bikini.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of divisions. And every box is ticked now for every kind of, every type of shape and size and structure.
You know what I find fascinating? A couple things I find fascinating. One is how many ecosystems there are. If you're into collectible cards, there's a whole ecosystem.
Correct.
If you're into bodybuilding, there's a whole ecosystem. It's its own community, and it has its own products, and it's its own small town. Everybody knows everybody.
Big small town.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody around the world. And no matter what it is, I mean, you pick it, it's got its little ecosystem. So I always find it fascinating how many there are, mushroom hunters. It's a whole thing.
Many, many different categories.
People are out there hunting mushrooms, looking for truffles, out with pigs in the middle of the woods. And it's their thing.
It is.
People got to find their thing. So I'm fascinated with any ecosystem. So I want to learn a little bit about that. But I'm mostly fascinated by artists. Anybody who I consider an artist, and somebody who approaches something like an artist. They want to approach it with excellence. They want to be the best. What is the mindset around the best? And I don't even care what the art is. If somebody's a short order cook, but they're an artist at a short order cook, I can watch them all day.
I agree.
If somebody's making a pizza and they're an artist at making a pizza, I can watch that all day. If they're an amateur, I'm not interested. You know what I mean? Yeah, they kick the pizza out, but there's not heart and soul in it.
Yes.
And whatever it is that you do, I find, so I view you as an artist in your space, and somebody who not only has competed, has bigger goals, wants to continue to compete, but is mentoring and helping next generation when you don't have to, because there's some artists that are kind of selfish. They're like, no, that's my art. And I'm not going to pass on all my secrets to somebody else. And I'm sure you know some of those people.
I'll see you.
And some egos that get out there.
Man,
there's some artists that you and I know, very influential. We don't need to name names, but influencers also live in this town, also have big muscles.
You're narrowing this down now to the
that we probably wouldn't go to lunch with again. But just for whatever, strange ego stuff shows up sometimes. So yeah, I don't need to narrow down too far.
Put a lot of breadcrumbs down there, Eric.
There's like 5 people that'll know what I'm talking about. But I find that in thought leaders. I find that with authors. I find that with speakers. There's people who are very, very good at their craft, but they want to suck all the oxygen out of the room and they want to be the only one.
Do you feel it's like, I done it my way, learn how to do it yours mentality?
I think they just want to be the big dog so much that they can't accept anybody else having any form of strength or power. And that threatens them in some way. And they'll find a way to take a shot at that stuff for whatever reason. I mean, I think that's one reason. It's not all, but anyway. But
we can both agree on the sentence, for whatever reason.
For whatever reason.
Right.
And everybody's got their path.
Yeah.
And everybody doesn't have to be everybody else's cup of tea. And most of the time when people show you who they are, you can believe them. And, I do believe that people change. I know I've changed dramatically over the course of the last 30 years of my business. And learned and grown. And, if you knew me 30 years ago, I'm a different person today, like completely different person. If you knew me 5 years ago, I'm a different person today, but I'm committed to constantly changing when most people aren't. So anyway, artists, you as an artist, have you ever thought of yourself as an artist?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we obviously spoke a little bit off camera about, creating that physique. So I kind of looked at myself from a very young age when I got into bodybuilding.
Give me the origin story. Take me like, whatever, like the superhero origin story. Where did the superhero, where was the superhero born?
Well, I'll kind of straight out the gate. I got my nickname Flex.
Yeah.
From a very young age, like 6 years old.
Really?
Nothing to do with bodybuilding. A lot of people think that when they see me, I give myself, or I pointed this name. It was actually given to me through the rugby field, being flexible, getting out of tackles. It was flexy. And then it got kind of...
What position did you play?
I played in the wing. I was a little speedster. And I thought that was my path. I thought I was going to be playing rugby like my grandfather.
You're really fast.
I still got a little space, a little pace.
I
dodge my wife, sometimes.
Yeah.
But that was it. I run for my country. And it was either track and field or rugby.
What do you mean run for your country?
I sprinted.
Okay.
A sprinter.
Like, what do you mean for your country? Like for...
Well, when you run for your school.
Yes.
And then you kind of, the next level, then you run for your region.
Yep.
And then you get selected to run for your country. So I won two gold medals and a silver in the British Nationals in track.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what were your what were your races that you raced?
Well, indoor they don't do 100. I think it's 80. So indoors 80, and then my specialty was hurdles, and I was always the shortest guy because these guys that I was competing against were like 5 foot, 5'10", 6 foot at a very young age. So I was just a little speed, so I got out the blocks fast, and when these guys started picking up stride because of their length, I was already kind of ahead of the pack. And it was always like a photo finish, especially the higher I went up. But for me, I always had these injuries in my feet, and I always was in a lot of pain at a very young age. But again, I never quit. I never had that mentality to quit. I just found loop around. So that's kind of...
Were your family athletic?
My dad, my mum was, the story there is my mum, no, not so much, but my mum was a nurse. She was born with gentle hips. So as life progressed, I see my mother's health decline. And it was a real driving motivation for me as the years went by. My dad worked in a steel factory, 50 years, retired, blue collar as they come. I got all my work ethic from my parents and also seeing my upbringing. Very humble beginnings. Again, it was a great childhood, fantastic childhood. My mother
Wales,
and father gave
right?
me, yes, Wales. My mother and father gave me and my brothers everything that we needed. And anything else, then, of course, they couldn't provide.
They let you go with this sports passion.
I mean, I was a little hooligan. So they put me into every sport. We were talking about my kids.
Because that kept you busy.
It kept me busy.
Out of trouble?
And I still can't, well, I mean.
They tried.
Yeah. I wasn't in trouble like police trouble. I was mischievous. I was like Jack the Lad, you know?
Like, give me one mischievous story.
Oh my goodness. Well, from a very young age, I remember painting my brother blue with cake coloring and took about a month to come off. And I thought it was the most hilarious thing. I was like a kid. And my mother then at that age, she said, I can't keep my eyes off this kid. I was bananas. I was just into everything. Again, and that transcended through my life, you know. I was just a very jovial, mischievous Jack the Lad, I would say.
Jack the Lad.
Jack the Lad. My grandfather was...
So your name is Jack?
No, James.
James.
I was actually 3 names. Stephen, James, and Flex.
Wow.
TSA called me Stephen. James is my family. And Flex is what the world know me as.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, going back to the nickname Flex, it wasn't really until I would say 12 years old, maybe a little bit younger, WWF used to be played at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. I used to sneak down in my grandparents' house because I stay there on the weekends, give my parents a break. And I'd sneak down and watch wrestling, my uncle, and I was just blown away by these jack guys just having the ability to run and flip and jump off the top ropes. And I just thought that was the most incredible thing. I didn't realize at that time that a seed was planted in my head. It was the muscle. Now, being a sprinter, when you see me coming onto the field, I was a smallish guy, but I was also very elusive, flexible, could get out of tackles. But I knew in rugby, you don't have pads. So you got to get into the weight room pretty early.
Yeah, or you're gonna break some shoulders, and
so you got to try and put some timber on that frame.
For sure.
So at 12 years old, I found a book on Tom Platz.
Okay.
Being that nosy, mischievous kid, my auntie had gone to a seminar in London. She was a nurse, and she met Tom Platz just by happen chance. She was there. He came to her university, nursing university in London, and she met him. You know, she knew like he was connected to Arnold, and she had no interest in training, but she met him. He signed the book. She came back to Wales to visit my grandparents, went back to London, left the book, kind of like the library behind you. And I found this book, pulled it out, and it blew my mind. I was like, how does a guy get that size on his legs? And I thought to myself, I want to run on a rugby field with them legs. And I remember my dad had an old weeder set of weights. Remember the old plastic coat?
Sure.
My dad wasn't really into weights, so this had gone to crap in the shed. You know, wooden shed up the garden, corroded ends, couldn't get the weights off. So I knew that was there, and waited for my parents to leave. And I pulled this fixed barbell.
They didn't want you to do it? Did you have to wait for them?
12 years old.
Oh, so the idea was if you start too young, you'll stunt your growth. It's not healthy for you.
That is the key word. My mother being a nurse, ex-nurse, stunt your growth. And then you see my parents, they're not anything but more 5'5". I'm 5'5.5". My parents were.
Well, the Welsh as a group are not giants.
That is true. That is true.
I remember going there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we stayed at a friend's house, and the door was, you had to duck through even the front door.
Eric, we hobbits, okay?
You had to duck through the front door. I'm not kidding you. I'm 5'11", but you had to duck through the front door. It was made for a whole smaller hundreds of years of people. There and Scotland both were similar.
Yeah.
In the size thing. I'm not saying you're hobbits. even though, my son's favorite thing is the whole Lord of the Rings and the Hobbits. I'm not saying that.
Okay. It's okay. This is how we start the podcast, but it's okay.
I'm just saying, they're not very super tall people.
That is true. That is observation and a true statement.
So mom was worried about you stunting your growth.
And
you were more worried about having super legs.
I just wanted to be big on that rugby field and then just be powerful and run through people.
So you snuck the weights out.
I got them up to my room and I hid them under the bed. And every day I'd pull these weights out and 1 rep turned to 2 reps turned to 3.
And what were you doing with them?
Well, that's actually a good question. I would pull my weights out and I'd look at the Tom Platz book and I would say, okay, so didn't know anything about squatting. It was all illustration and images. And it was the Tom Platz encyclopedia. Mm-hmm. So I popped this fixed barbell on my bed. And you can imagine it's not exactly the ideal place to get a barbell on your back. But I was looking at the picture and I'd roll the barbell onto my back and I'd try and stand up from that. Not exactly anything I would advise, even to this day.
It was just something.
It was me trying to copy this book and having this fixed obsession of getting big legs. And this is the way I was going to do it. So you see.
So it was all focused on legs.
All focused. I didn't know anything else. And I didn't want big arms, big chest. I was not concerned about that back then. It was the legs.
Yeah.
And I managed to get this barbell on my back, the same protocol every single day. 1 rep turned to 2. I mean, 1 rep was a 1 rep for a long time.
Were you face down with the bar on your back?
My back was to my bed.
Back was to your bed, and you put the bar behind your neck.
And I tried to get up.
Tried to sit up and stand up.
I couldn't even tell you what I done. I just managed to do 1 rep.
Okay.
And that 1 rep was consistent until it turned to 2. And then over a prolonged period of time, I remember doing quite a lot of reps, but then I remember my dad running in the room with all that huffing and puffing, being 12 years old. I think he thought I was doing something else. And I think he was relieved.
Probably happy.
He was relieved to see it wasn't the case, but also not relieved to see that it was against my mother's wishes. My mother runs the ship.
Yeah.
So the weights were taken off me, but I had the bug. So if I fast forward.
So they said enough, but did you have progress already?
Yeah.
Like how much progress had you had and how long did you do that before they caught you?
I mean, in combination to other things that I was doing, running, I lived on top of a hill too.
Yeah.
So I'd ride my bike down the hill and I'd ride it up and there was no gears. My bike had 1 gear and my legs would burn. And then I would do squats and I didn't know what I was doing, but everything was responding.
Yeah.
I also wasn't eating enough food back then, but they had definition and cuts, but it definitely had an impact in all the sports that I was doing. So I knew there was a big correlation between weights.
So mom and dad pulled them away. So what was your next workaround?
I would say fast forward 15, I started having older friends.
Okay. So you stopped for like 3 years?
Well, it was like periodic, you train in a friend's garage.
You do little stuff. Yeah, it wasn't every day.
No. But I needed to find a way to get into the gym.
Okay.
And at 15, I joined a powerlifter's gym to help with the rugby. So I started powerlifting. I still was.
What were parents thinking at that time?
They were like, what are you doing? Because they went to one of my competitions. And picture the scene. I'm going out for a deadlift. And behind me, there's an open cafe. And the bacon and egg smoke was engulfing all the lifters. And my parents were like, you're going from playing high-level rugby to doing this? And I was like, no, it's in combination. It's only helping me. But little did they know, right? They thought that this was going to be it. But it was truly an asset to me because I knew the powerlifting was really
a tool.
It's an incredible tool to have. And also, I was able to tick the boxes of winning the Welsh and also winning the British in powerlifting too, in my weight category. So another feather to my hat. I'm all about throwing myself into different things and just going all out. There's no half-assed version of me.
So what are your personal bests?
Oh my gosh.
Back then, can you remember?
I can't remember. But
you had the Welsh titles for your age.
I had for my age and the British.
Okay. How much did you weigh at the time?
Oh my goodness. I was probably, when I first stepped foot in the gym, now we're working in stone, so we'd have to work this out. I was 9 stone, so it's 12 pounds in the stone.
I don't know.
Yeah. What's that, Ali? 12 pounds in the stone.
120 pounds? 110 pounds?
Yeah, it was, so is it 14 pounds in the stone? I'm sorry.
14 pounds in the stone. Yeah. So 135
Yeah,
pounds?
something like that. So I was soaking wet at that point in time walking into the gym for the first time, and then I could see.
Were you always lean?
Yeah.
Always?
But
always
I never
growing up?
ate. I never ate that much. Even to this day, I never loved food. I hated food.
Man,
And that'll
what
come
a
out
gift.
more. Yeah, I hated it. And it was actually a kind of.
I wish I was
branch off.
allergic to carbs.
I can train you. It's all mental. It's all mental. Because I had to
I bet
learn.
you can.
I know not to go all over the place, but I had to learn how to train myself how to eat for this world. Because I fell into this world unknowing that it all revolves around a dinner table.
Yeah.
Had I known that, I mean, the pose and trunks was enough. But again, that was the hardest thing for me. And kind of keeping on the timeline, I was in this powerlifting gym and I was around some big guys.
Big
Guys, powerlifters, and it was one of them gyms where you walk in, you hear the old school iron clank, people
A lot of yelling.
Small little gym, but they bred monsters. It was the
Mm-hmm.
environment, it was the culture. And in being in that gym, iron sharpens iron. And I was around European champions, world champions in powerlifting, and on this side, on the bodybuilding, Welsh bodybuilding champions and British champions. But I always kept on looking over the garden fence at the bodybuilders, because the powerlifters and bodybuilders back then used to go at it, kind of like CrossFit.
The power lifters were like, we're really the strong guys, and the bodybuilders are the pretty boys.
Yes.
But the pretty boys are like saying, well, you guys are a bunch of ugly trolls, and we'll take the pretty muscles.
Yeah.
We're okay.
And the
We'll take the trade.
The diets, the powerlifters were great back then too. I'd walk into the gym, the guys had ordered fish and chips, pies, and in between sets, they'd have a quick little last cigarette, hang it on the window. They do their squats, and then the bodybuilders
The
were
big bellies.
Yes, pristine, weighing out their food and everything else in the gym. And I was like, okay, I'm more leaning towards the bodybuilder side.
Yeah.
And I then started supporting some.
Why? What attracted you?
I just love the beauty of it.
Yeah. The art of
and
it.
the process.
Yeah.
The process, there's a process is everything.
Yeah, sure.
But with the
become
bodybuilding side
great.
of things, you see a guy in the off season and you see him starting to get leaner and leaner. And unlike any other sport, I think this is the fascination.
I've been in the off season for like 40 years. I'm ready.
Not anymore. I see the change.
I'm ready to get into the real season.
I think you're.
But I've been bulking.
pre-contest now.
I've been bulking for like 40 years.
Well, you're ready.
I'm ready now.
You're ready.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say you're off season. I think you're into your pre-contest now. I see these cheeks starting to come in and everything else. I see the change. But the process of off season into pre-contest and seeing the guys all happy and vibrant in the gym, and then the seriousness, that 12-week mark,
That quiet,
that dial starts turning.
Yeah.
And unlike any other sport that I haven't competed in, you peak.
the skin
right?
gets paper thin.
But like you in the track and field and the rugby, you train in the off season. When you're on the field, you're kind of prepared, you're ready.
Yeah.
But you're really peaking. Everything's aligned, you're strong, you're fit, you're ready to go cardiovascularly, physically. In bodybuilding, the closer you get to the show, the better you look, the worse you feel. And that's when mentality starts kicking in. How much do you want it?
When did rugby and track fall away?
19.
When 19 and bodybuilding replaced it at 19?
Yes. So
bodybuilding was a tool at the beginning.
Yep.
And it became the end.
So I'd play a rugby game for college,
Uh-huh.
and we were British college champions. I was part of the team that won the British colleges. Some of these guys went on to play for the country, highest representation. And there was just a point where I just fell in love with the weight room.
There's such a difference between team sport versus individual.
Yeah.
Did you miss any of the team sport stuff?
It taught me enough. But I didn't miss it.
It gave you enough.
Yeah. I was part of many great teams.
Mm-hmm.
I also was part of many teams that took a hammer in.
Yeah.
In fact, my college team, so this is what we do. I know we're going all over the place, but my college team would play every other week.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows club rugby to play every other week.
Mm-hmm.
So every 2 weeks, club rugby, every 2 weeks, college rugby.
Mm-hmm.
My college team, studs, recruited athletes, played against amazing athletes. And then my club team were the local boys.
Yeah.
we couldn't feel the team sometimes. We were calling these guys up the morning of the game. Where the hell are you? You better get down here. I had more fun training with these and playing with these guys.
Sure.
Because these guys had my back as opposed to an arranged team of savages.
Mm-hmm.
And there was many regards I thought to myself, well, this is a team sport, but there's a lot of individual players here playing for the fame. And being on the wing, you're the last guy to get the ball.
Sure.
But playing for my club, I was one of the guys that they looked for because I was one of them players that loved to get dirty. I was the complete opposite of the stereotype winger. The stereotype winger is you go on the field with your hair gelled, you leave the field with your hair gelled.
Yeah.
I would leave my field with black eyes, missing teeth. These are all fake. I've given as good as I got. You see my hands. These are all from part of the game. And that team element of things, the camaraderie and everything else taught me so much. But there's only so much that you can put into the bodybuilding because it's you versus you.
All right. So I want to get into the bodybuilding
Yeah.
And the rest of that story. And I want to explore excellence in the mindset and everything else.
Absolutely.
But you basically choose 3 paths that don't have a lot of money. All 3.
Mm-hmm.
Track, rugby, bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
There's not like, oh, go get rich there.
No.
But you loved it,
Mm-hmm.
and that was enough. And you think your plan was, I'm going to excel and then I'll figure out a way to make money? Or was there a plan to make money when you started?
So I've always been an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Very young age. Had my first entrepreneurial elements. And this answers the question also.
Yeah,
I'm going all over the place. But at 12, I had my paper round like everything else. I bought up the rounds and I sold them back to the guys and took a cut off the top. First entrepreneurial moment for me. At 15, I started breeding and selling birds, finches. Then I progressed to parrots. Then I progressed to racing pigeons. Everything had to be a business for me, and I also had to make money from it. So when I got into bodybuilding, obviously I was playing rugby and running track and everything else. I said to myself, okay, if I'm going to do this, it's got to be a business. It's got to be. I missed a critical and key part of the moment there. In college, I started up my first real business,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a moving company. And I grew that exponentially. I won 3 Young Businessman of the Year awards, and I had an award of King Charles, KEF scholarships, and it was a great.
So you always had a business, and this was your passion.
Yes, but I married the both. So imagine the marketing element of things. All these awards, everything I promoted and pushed, but everything was all word of mouth. And I found from a very young age that word of mouth carries all the weight. And literally I was carrying all the weight back then too, moving people. But what I done was I utilized the fact that me and all my guys who worked for me all trained.
You built a name.
And everything was
And a
uniform.
brand.
Yes, a brand. Everything was uniform. Growing up, watching TV.
Before social.
Before. So I had to get word of mouth, and then obviously papers found out about us. So all the pictures that I would take, pushing and promoting my brands, my companies, everything was clean. I remember seeing the FedEx trucks as a kid on TV and the uniforms these guys had. So I was like, okay, that's what we got to do. So all my guys had uniforms when all the other moving companies looked like scrubs. The vans were dirty, turning up your house. Mine were gleaming. All my guys were learn to speak punctually. Yes, ma'am, no, sir. All that. Not what my country's about. And that's all them small little things went so far. You want it on the third, there's no third floor in Wales, but because we're hobbits. You want it on the second floor? Or do you want it on the first floor? Oh, put it on the second. No, can you move it back to? No problem whatsoever. If you want to go back and you get in the van, then you have your moan. Then you talk shit. That's when you let it out. You don't huff, puff, no problem, anything you want. That mentality, I said to myself, after growing and scaling that business, I had to put into bodybuilding because this was the crossroad. It was the opportunity to then grow in bodybuilding. So I never got into this world, just to kind of tell this story, to be a bodybuilder. I love bodybuilding. I supported the guys. I fascinated by muscle, but I seen a bodybuilding poster on the wall in the gym, and the gym owner said to me, if you do this show, I give you a free gym membership. and money was tight. I'd started up the business. I said, how hard can this be? Hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Prepping for the Mr. Wales, the Mr. Britain, the Mr. Europe, the Mr. Universe, whilst moving people.
You're double working.
I had to then add in the fact, like,
how much time were you spending on your business, and how much time were you spending on your passion?
I was putting more into my business at the time, as I should have done.
Yep.
Than my bodybuilding.
And sometimes people need to do that.
Yeah.
You know, in my world, they have a job that's paying the bills. They might not love it.
Yep.
It might not be their dream. It's a necessary evil. But they want to work for themselves. They want to become an entrepreneur, but they have to make sure that their family's taken care of in the meantime.
Absolutely.
I'm not wired that way, you know? So what I did, as soon as I saw it, I jumped and, you know, they say leap and the net will appear.
Yep.
You know, jump off the cliff and grow wings. That's what I did, because my brain literally cannot do two things. I can't do two things. If my brain's divided, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
So the advice I give people, if you have the discipline, make sure your family's taken care of.
Yeah.
Do the hard thing while you build your passion.
Yeah.
But have your focus be on the passion, even if it's part-time. Because where was your subconscious brain? What were you dreaming about? What were you thinking about, you know, most of the day? What was it? Was it the moving company, or was it bodybuilding?
It was probably getting to the gym.
Yeah.
After
getting to the gym. Because if it was the other way around, your subconscious brain would have sabotaged the bodybuilding.
Absolutely.
But instead, it rewarded the bodybuilding, and it slowly sabotaged the moving business without you even really knowing. One little thing at a time.
Yeah. I didn't know that this hobby stroke passion was turning out to what it was, because my goal at one point in time was, again, that passion, that hobby, well, it wasn't a hobby, but that passion was to grow my business.
Sure.
So in the meantime, I fell in love with the gym and I started competing. And then I had opportunities to do more things.
How much were you training a day when you were training for that first competition?
I mean, it was probably like 6 days a week.
6 days a week. How many hours a day?
Like 2 hours.
2 hours a day, 6 days.
Yeah. And then I was working
hard.
And then I was moving people 2 or 3 moves a day.
So you weren't just the boss, you were moving.
I wasn't a finger pointer. I'm not that guy. I lead from the front. And if I drove the truck, this is how much control. I drove the truck. I worked whilst I was driving. And when I got there, I was working in the truck and out the truck. So, and I had to go and survey what was being moved prior. So I'd go in with my clipboard, doing everything else. When you grow in a business, as you know, I'm leading from the front, and this is how I want to be represented. And as it was such an infancy business, only a couple of years old, I wanted to make sure that this was being and taken in the direction that I seen this becoming.
Yep.
Little did I know that I hit this crossroad with bodybuilding, and I was faced with this dilemma. I was like, wow, I've got this opportunity to go to the US.
So talk about that. So you've built up this business, you're probably doing well. And I'm sure your friends and family are saying, just keep growing that. Keep your bodybuilding this fun little hobby. Just be a good boy and continue to grow this business. That bodybuilding doesn't really have a future. Don't be stupid, son.
And many other people.
Yes.
But it was the same people that told me that my business wouldn't succeed also.
Yeah. So was it hard to say, sorry, I got to do what I got to do?
Well,
or had you built up enough self-confidence by then to say, I'm going to follow my own heart?
Well, first, I thought I could do both. And you can't. You can't do 100% in both.
I can't.
I can't either.
I can't do it.
It's one or the other. I'm 2 feet in, not one.
Yeah. I could do it for a very short period of time, but I'm kind of project oriented. And if it's in the same field, I can do a project, finish that, do another project, finish that, do another project. But I treat my whole life like projects.
Yep.
So like even my fitness journey now, the amateur version is project by project with dates. You know, my next date's May 10th, you know, and
that's
then
your goal.
Then my next date is July 20th, you know, and that's around events where I've got to show up, and, you know, and I've told people I'm going to be a certain, I've set targets and
You
all
put it
that.
out there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So anyway, you get to this point.
Yeah.
How old are you at the time? When you're like, okay, US seems to be the place I need to go.
So I started my business at 19 and I started winning some shows. And at 20, I had this email from a gentleman called Ed Connors. And Ed Connors is the owner of Gold's Gym.
Okay.
He bought her of Joe Gold.
Uh-huh.
And the Venice Golds that we all know.
I didn't know he was the owner.
Yeah, he was him and 3 other people purchased it off Joe Gold and turned it into what it is. So Ed was in charge of franchises, but he was also in charge of kind of like scouting the future talent. Now, the internet was relatively new.
I always thought it was Weeder was the guy.
Well, Joe is the godfather.
Yeah.
But this is the
There's
gym.
levels.
This is the gym, Gold's Gym.
Okay.
So Ed would bring athletes in from all over the world. And back then it was all hearsay. You hear a guy from Russia, you hear a guy from, I don't know, in the middle of Boise or in the middle of Minnesota. So he would bring these guys in.
Like Dana White's doing with UFC.
But without, at least there's context, there's media, there's some sort of fight.
Sure.
This was all polar, old school photos that had been sent to him. So he would bring these guys out. And my images were posted on the internet. I won the British juniors at under 21. And I was 20. 19 first, 20 the second time. And I get this email. I'd love to fly you out to the US, bring you to the US. And, you can see Gold's Gym. I was like, okay, whatever. My mother being my mother, she was thinking that this guy was going to lock me in some closet or something and bring me out for some fun time. So I ended up declining the email politely because I just didn't know who he was. Again, a name that was thrown around. Several months later, I get another email from him and he was like, speak to this guy a reference. I ended up speaking to this guy and he said, no, he's legit. So I ended up jumping on a plane, going out to the US. And
what was that like? First time?
I was so excited and for whatever reason, so at peace. I just felt like this was a new journey, a new chapter, something that I didn't really
fly
know
to
and
California,
understand.
the Mecca at the time.
And also for me, getting to the US and walking into Gold's Gym for the first time, this magazine that I'd bought every single month, Flex magazine, just turned into reality.
How does it become Flex magazine? How does that even happen when that's your nickname?
I don't know. There's no loyalty on that though.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But I just walked into this gym and I was like, whoa, and also during that period of time too, there's a lot of Hollywood that was training there. So it was just a who's who.
Like who?
Jean-Claude Van Damme, Hulk Hogan, you see Bruce Willis. But my first day, I seen Jean-Claude Van Damme and all the Olympian athletes, Mr. Olympian athletes that I seen in the magazines for all these years. And I was like, this is crazy. This is beyond crazy. And everything was just so supersized. The trucks, the food, everything, the women, I mean, remember, I come from Wales. There was people walking around in bikinis. I was like, what do I look? What do I don't look? It was just a wild world. And I knew that I had to be there.
This was home.
I knew. I felt it. It was the same peace I had in my heart when I started my business.
There's a reason why this guy was smart enough to get you in that environment.
And all he done was that.
Yeah.
He didn't give me a sponsorship. He brought me over, put me up in his house.
Just come look.
And unleashed me into the wild. And that was it. I had a roof, I had board. And once a day, we would meet up for dinner and he'd invite people over. He just wanted me to be around some older guys and I would say more experienced pros to showcase there was a life and also a business that could be made in bodybuilding.
Mm.
So I went back home.
Well, who were the legends at the time when you came over?
Ronnie Coleman.
Ronnie was.
Just think of the delusion I had back then. When I knew that I was all in on this, I was like, I'm going to be Mr. Olympia. And Ronnie Coleman was the champion. I just have this
Ronnie's a beast.
Ability to
It's
just
so
say,
sad
I'm going
to
to
see
do
what's
it.
happened with his back and all that. But.
Ronnie's a good friend. I hate to see it too, but he's the epitome of leaving it all in the gym.
Yeah.
And he'll say himself, even to this day, he says that he had more reps in him and probably would have broken himself even more. But talk about a gentleman, a guy who's always got a smile on his face, was first to the booth, last to leave. When you're around guys like that,
yep,
and you see
Sets
that
the
this
example.
is the greatest of all time. And this guy now, as the years have gone by, he's deteriorated.
Sure.
He's actually got better, at least recently, because of stem cells and stuff. But just to see how he is with the fans. And again, I know he's not sitting there happy as Larry. He's in a lot of discomfort.
Sure.
But I've also traveled with Ronnie.
He's
around
still
the
an
world.
ambassador.
Incredible champion. And I was very privileged to travel around the world with Ronnie before I even won a title. And we'd go island hopping, New Zealand. And you know, you go to New Zealand, there's all these little mini islands. We would jump in a little prop plane, me and Ronnie. Ronnie was huge back then too. 2 pilots. I think it was like 4
You guys
seats.
are weighing the plane down.
So there was,
The
there we
plane's
go.
just like,
So there was Ronnie on one side and there was me and all of our bags on the other. And that's not a joke. To balance it, the captain came back and said, can we configure the luggage in here a little bit? But again, when we landed, I seen Ronnie just go to town and we would land, and this is before social media. And I truly believe that's one of the reasons why my social media blew up, because we got in to these little villages and these towns and we shook all these kids' hands. They would take off school to meet us, long lines. In fact, we couldn't cover them all. We had to go to another place and they would drive next to us. Their parents would drive, but they would re-add themselves to that line. But that physical touch and just having that communication and also just being present was all these lessons that I learned long before social media ever came apart. So when social media came, I married the two worlds together. I was very blessed to be sponsored by Joe Weider at 23 years old. There was only a handful of amateurs ever sponsored, and I was one of them. And Joe seen something in me along with the team, and thankfully they, I rewarded them years later. But I had my foot, or 2 feet at that point in time, all in print. There was no social media. So you learned how to work in print and stay in shape. Called up, hey, we need to do a photo shoot, no problem. And then when social media came about, that transition from print to socials met for probably about 2 years until print started dying. And then I transitioned into social media. So I was the last athlete to be under contract with Joe before print died.
Sure.
But I learned a lot.
I just want to jump in and say, I hope you're getting value from everything that we do at the Excellence Project. And if you do, make sure to follow us on all the social platforms. If you look up Eric Worre or the Excellence Project, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, everywhere where you get your content on social media. Find us over there. We'll continue the conversation. Back to the podcast. Was Arnold out of the game at that time? Was he mostly movies by then?
Yes, Arnold was movie star. Yes, he was movie star before he transitioned into being the politician.
Yeah.
But I never had the opportunity to work with him. I mean, I don't want to say too much because Arnold's done fantastic stuff for the sport.
Sure.
But I truly wish he'd done more. We talk about pouring into people.
Yeah.
I feel that one of the reasons why
it felt like he conquered that. I mean, I think he had, I mean, who am I to say, but I think he had sights on the White House and thought that would be cool and headed in that direction. Yeah. And between real estate and movies and then the governorship, it's just like,
talk about a story though, right? Think about that.
Yeah.
And this is
the Arnold Classic and all that stuff. He's done that at least, right?
I just wish I selfishly had that relationship with him because he's paved the way, right?
Well, you never know.
You never know.
He's still around. You're still around.
Yeah. I think for me, when I was competing, I never had a mentor. I had my coach. Me and my coach have been together for 20 years.
Was Ronnie kind of a mentor? Or more of a friend?
A friend, but you watch and learn. I never had a mentor in sport in general.
Really?
No. I kind of learned from watching others, and I hate to say this, learn what to do by seeing what others weren't supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I seen the game.
So you couldn't find one that you wanted?
No,
I found mine. I sought mine out. Mine started without them knowing they were my mentors. They started like with audio programs that I could find,
Yeah.
and then with their books
Mhm.
or on social podcasts, those types of things. And I would get more from that than if we hung out for a weekend,
Got
you know, because I could listen to it 1,000 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for most of those people, eventually we became friends. And some of those were mentor relationships, but I got most of the value from virtual
Got you.
mentors versus physical mentors, actually.
Well, back then there was nothing virtual, so it was book in the library, and
Unless you're going to watch Pumping Iron 15 times.
I watched it more than 15 times, man. I loved the DNA of bodybuilding, and I think it was maybe pride, a little bit of pride that
Sure.
you don't want to show the vulnerability of asking the questions.
Sure.
But now I'm surrounded by people like yourself, right? You don't ask, you won't get that question. You know, I'm in the position now where I love to tell and talk and mentor certain people.
Yeah.
Because time is
The wrong mentor
is commodity.
is the worst idea ever.
Yeah. And
you know real fast.
you know real so fast. And there's a lot of telltale questions.
Doesn't take much.
No.
One dinner.
Half, maybe, right? Exactly. Too many breadcrumbs. It's not good for you. I'm neutral. No,
Whatever.
no,
I'm neutral too.
I know. But no, that's a point that it was not really in my bodybuilding career that I had any mentorships.
Yeah.
I kind of learned how I went along. Probably done the longest route, but I done it my way.
Yeah.
I've done it with strategy of never, dicking anybody over.
Yeah.
I done it ethically, and I done it as a student. I'm a student of the game. I pride myself on being a student of the game, even to this day.
When did you become a Mr. Olympia first time?
So I done my first show. I turned pro, 2007.
Okay.
And that was, again, a achievement that a lot of people didn't believe I was going to do. Coming to the US, I'm pouring into myself. So at this point in time, I was on the travel visa. So I was doing the whole 3-month UK visa. I'd go back for 3 days or whatever it was. Say hug for my mum and dad, and I was back on the plane. And I got away with that for a long time. Again, you can't do that now.
Yeah.
But I was going back and forth, but I was really being around the best, and I seen everything, the glass half full. So when I turned pro, I knew, okay, now is the big leagues. Everything that you've done.
How are you making money?
I had a sponsorship with WIDA.
Okay.
And it was a stipend.
Right.
It was just enough to get, I was paying
survive.
And then
so you weren't making money, you were surviving.
I was surviving, no question. But I also had sponsorships, which a lot of pros didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still an amateur.
Mm-hmm.
But I conducted myself, walk, talked, act as a pro, even as an amateur. So perception became reality to a lot of these people. In fact, my first sponsor signed me thinking I was a pro just by how busy I was. And again, I know I'm going all over the place, but I would stay in shape. I moved myself from Marina Del Rey in California to a place called Fullerton, California, where all the Flex magazine photo shoots were taking place. And I slept on a sofa for a year and a half, turned up every single day at this gym. And I was the squeaky wheel. I'm in shape.
I'm ready.
All these guys who are under contract getting paid a lot of money by WIDA would turn up in horrible shape.
Yeah.
And they getting paid a lot of money to be in shape. So I turn up, I was like, this photographer would go nuts all the time. And I was like, hey,
I'm ready.
I'm test shots.
Yeah.
And in the end, he was like, okay, Welsh kid. Didn't even get the chance to learn my name. Come on, Welsh kid, jump in. And 3 months later, this little image popped up in the Flex magazine. And that was enough for me to be like, okay, things are moving now. Now, again, I know you asked me about the turning pro and the Mr. Olympia, but I think this is a critical part.
Yeah, of course.
I should mention, there was many times where I could have gone back home with my tail between my legs. I had no money. It was...
How many times did you seriously consider it?
I never considered it.
Never.
The option was there. The torment was there. The reality of me going back home and picking up on my moving company and making real money was there. Every time I call my mother, she was like, okay, baby, come on, time to come home. You miss mommy's cooking. Of course, who doesn't miss my mother's cooking? Every time. But then when I started to combat that, be like, Mom, hey, listen, there might be 10 things going on that's wrong. horrible, whatever it was, catastrophic, I'd give her what she needed to hear. Mom, guess what? This month's Flex magazine, I got a 1/4-page stamp size image in the magazine. And then I started turning up on my own behalf to these appearances where all the pros would get paid a lot of money to turn up. And I'd go to these Max Muscle stores. Jay Cutler would be there signing. I'd print my own 8x10s from Kinko's, $5 a piece, which is ridiculous. And I'd turn up and I'd sign for fans. And I'd be like, who the hell is this kid? I don't know.
He's sitting next to
I'm sitting next to Jay Cutler, so it must be somebody. And then what happens is it was my opportunity to shake the hands of the fans, get them to become a fan. This is their first interaction with me. And also, the thing that was fighting me back then too, there was another Flex. There's Flex Wheeler. Flex Wheeler is the uncrowned Mr. Olympia. So the internet was rife back then. Who the heck does this kid think he is, calling himself Flex? They ripped me back to front. So there was very, very little positivity for me being in the US. There was so much negativity. And as I was young, I was getting a little bit of press. Everything.
Did you view it as a challenge? The pushback? Because I mean, I would just tell you from my experience.
Please.
My first 7 years, emotionally, I quit like 20 times. Physically, I never quit.
Yeah.
But emotionally, it's just like, I'm freaking done. There must be something wrong with me. Because these other clowns are working harder than they are, and they're making more money than I am. I must not have this thing figured out. Nobody give me a chance.
Yeah.
Nobody give me a place on stage, whatever. But honestly, I really feel like if I would have had other options outside of the network marketing business, because it's hard. Network marketing is not easy. If I would have had other options, I'd have taken them. But I didn't. It really didn't. I mean, there was no place I can go that I could make money as quickly as I could make it. And, even if I was mad at it, and I'd have to go work on myself in order to be able to do it. But so you're telling me that it never crossed your mind?
I'm not just saying it because I'm sitting across.
No. I'm impressed by it because you're like, nope. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, this sucks. Yeah, I hear you. Part of it was proving them wrong.
A little bit of ego. It's saying like, can I swear on this? John?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I was like, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
I've never had people encourage me from the get.
Yeah.
From the get. So it's just prove them wrong. It was honestly a repetitive rinse story throughout my childhood, teens, up early 20s, bodybuilding. It was just a different narrative, and it hurts because now I had grown men that.
What if they were encouraging you the whole time? Do you think you'd still be here?
See, that's where I feel like
probably not.
Probably not.
See, I had a guy. I was probably, I don't know, in my first year in network marketing. I'm in my early 20s, and he's my hero. Played football, played linebacker for the Vikings. My team, went to our church. Our families hung out together. He taught me how to play. I had average talent at best, no work ethic, and wanted to show up on game day and wasn't really showing up in practice. All this stuff, but I got up the guts to call him to try to prospect him about my network marketing business. And it all planned out in my head. I was going to call him, like end of the day, somebody else was going to answer. And I was going to ask if he was home, and then they'd call for him, and he'd walk down the hall and he'd pick up the phone and he'd say hi. And then I'd introduce myself.
Yep.
And I had my little script in front of me, the whole thing. And instead he answered in the first ring.
Okay.
And my brain left my body.
Oh,
literally. And I said everything you shouldn't say. I stumbled over myself. I fumbled over myself. And he just said, Eric, stop. I am not a prospect. Nobody in my family will ever be a prospect. In 90 days, you will not be doing this business. You will have failed and you'll be doing something else.
damn.
Do not call me again at home about business. And he hung up.
Yikes.
And it was one of those moments where like gravity was triple. Like I was pressed face down on my little desk because I made sure that nobody else was around when I made the call. And then I remember I ended up on the floor. And I could tell you what the carpet looks like and smelled like. My face mushed into the floor because I'm like, my life, this just is the worst. I'm embarrassed now. This is my hero. What the heck am I thinking? I'm such an amateur. And I laid there for like 10 minutes and then I got pissed off. And I was like, who the hell does this guy think he is? You know, he knew that this took all the courage I had in my whole body to make this call. He did not have to shut me down like that.
Yeah.
He didn't have to tell me I was going to fail. You know, somebody had to be in his corner at some point.
Yeah.
He could have been in my corner. He could have been kinder about how he was going to do it. But he gave me a great gift because I got up off the ground pissed off. And I'm a big legal pad guy, which confuses my team to this day. And I wrote his name at the top of the legal pad and I underlined it twice. Wow. Put stars next to each side of his name. And I left it on the top of the legal pad for 3 years.
Dumb.
Every time I had a new legal pad, his name would go on the top. Because, like you said, fuck that guy. I am not going to let him win. Because guess what? In the 90 days, I wanted to quit. Like 2-3 times. But I couldn't. Because I couldn't let him win. You know? So.
Totally get it.
Oh, man. And I often think if he would have been encouraging or even worse, join my business, I might be out. I certainly wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Isn't that crazy?
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
The fact that you had to have the resistance to find that fire, you know, I don't know about you, but I think getting pissed off is part of it.
No question.
Somewhere. It doesn't have to be evil. Anger is not an evil thing. You can be angry at playing small. You can be angry at allowing yourself to do things that you shouldn't be doing. Anger is not a negative emotion. I mean, it can be. But for me, I found that to go where I needed to go, I need to get mad.
Pissed off for greatness, as Ray Lewis would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I had somebody holding my hand and giving me a hug and every time and being that mentor and, you know, like being the Morgan Freeman coach mentor character in the movie, sitting there and coaching me every day, it's going to be okay, son, you know, or Denzel Washington, you know, trying to mold me into a better version of myself. I'm not sure I'd be here.
You got to get the scars.
Yeah. I mean, and the greatest gift you can get, I think, the greatest gift you can get is somebody to straight up look in your face and tell you you're going to fail. Because then you can get mad. The hard ones are the son, I really love you and I care about you and I'm worried. The little, you know, seeds of doubt planted inside of you that can, if you're not careful, they can sink in.
And root.
Yeah, that's different.
Yep.
If somebody's obvious, it was better. At least it was for me.
Well, on that note, 100% agree. I'm sure we've got so many relatable stories, just a different storyline that's, you know, just replaced. But every time I spoke to my parents, right, they were like, we love you, come home. You know, it's okay. It's what you mean it's okay. It's okay. Just, you don't have to do this anymore.
You did this.
I'm like,
you conquered it. You look
all
great.
in. I'm all in on this. I'm staying here. No, when I got off the phone, I turn around and I'm looking at the sofa I'm sleeping in. It's one of them, you know, them fake leather. It had scraped off, so it's just material.
The pleather.
Sticky, and there was no AC in the house. It was the harsh reality that I was in, and the bank account resembled it. And I had every option and every chance to just say, you know what? I've given everything I've got you, and with all these people saying this, that, and the other about me, not even giving me a chance, I'm I could go back home and pick up where I left off. And my moving company, before I left, I had contracts with the NHS, contracts with the local council. So I was doing pretty well to then have nothing. I was also employed my parents. So then I was pissed off. I was like, this isn't how I'm going to fall on my sword in doing this, but this is not it. This is not me falling on my sword. This is an escape, an exit strategy that I'm not doing.
So was there another level that you found when you got mad? Did you find another level because you thought you were doing it, and then the motivation kicked in, and then you really did it?
I'm very blessed to have the upbringing I have, because all that is being locked in to what I call Pandora's box. I unleash it every time that I need that kick in the ass. No caffeine, no pre-workout is going to give me this mindset. I tap into it, but also it's unhealthy if you allow yourself to just run rampant.
You can't stay there.
No. A big set for me is when I unleash this. And
you unleash it, how long can it last?
The duration of the set, because I put it back.
The dragon. How long can the dragon be out of the box?
Ask my training partners.
About. I mean, is it 90 days?
Oh, no. This is kind of like an espresso.
Okay.
It has a duration.
It's a big burst.
So
short.
I would go into a set. I know we kind of gone all over the place, but welcome to the podcast.
No, it's good. It's good.
I would go into a set, and these are the top 2 sets. These are the money sets. These are what now is going to make you grow the 23 hours you're out of the gym. So when you get into that set, there's a process, and it starts from, if you're doing upper body, you hand wrap in. I go into this zone, and I would say it's calm violence, and I've been able to nurture it. So when I get into this, say legs, it's a lot of weight, failure. If you think about that, you don't look at it and go, oof, so there's a lot of weight. All my training partners knew the dialogue, what to say, what not to say, or say nothing at all. It's all mental warfare. So going into this, you get into the mindset, you start doing whatever routine I would do, because I'm zoning out at this point in time. And then I'd think of something, traumatic issue of old mother, see my mother crawling up the stairs in pain, whatever it is. And I would put it all into the set. And as soon as the set's done, I'd walk away, have my 30 seconds, and then I'm there for my training partner. Lock.
So the dragon goes back in the box.
Goes back in. It's not, first of all, that energy consumed is there for that one set. And, we were talking about nurturing our energy, and I knew how to do it. And I've done it damn well. But again, if you just let that box fly open and allow yourself to just be consumed with all that negativity, you might say, yeah, but you're powering yourself to, no. My job, my purpose, once I was the champ, or leading up to that, was to leave it all out in the gym. And that's one of the reasons why I created a private gym, because I couldn't be in a public gym having that mindset. I was interrupted, fans are coming to me. So in and out of that mindset, being flex, going back in, it's not good. So that's why I invested into opening my private facility, so I can allow myself, and also give myself no distractions. If there was a distraction, it was on me. It wasn't because that guy was sitting on that set, that piece of equipment I wanted on the phone. It was me and the people I chose to invite to come during that training session.
Those who support it.
It was, and these athletes that I chose, I mentioned one upstairs, Rafael Brando, just won the Arnold Classic Brazil. They were all added value to me. I also like training around young, hungry lion cubs. The guys have not tasted success, but on the climb, because I see myself in them. But these guys were like me also, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, wanting to learn whatever knowledge I passed to them. But what they didn't realize was they were giving me just as much as what I was giving them.
Could they handle the dragon? Could they figure that part out?
I don't think anybody can handle the dragon. I don't know. I would say there's 2 sides to me. There was, and it was a process. So all these guys that came to train me from all over the world, wherever they were, didn't even speak English, some of them. They would come into the gym, and I was very militant with everything. Structure is everything. Bottom line, I tell everybody, okay, if you want to be there 11 o'clock, be there 11 o'clock. But 11:30 to 12, this is where you have to be there. It's part of the process. We'll drink our pre-workouts. We'll talk about, you know, whatever it is, I'm sorry for the dog's operation or whatever it could be. Real conversations among friends. 12 strikes, that mindset changes. You walk into that gym, no laughter, no jokes. We're here to do business. And if you don't want to be here, go back to your country. But that was the other side to me. You see me for the guy I am today, but like you said, 5 years ago, I was a different animal. I was a different animal on a chase to be the best.
Well, but you're still on the chase. So
it's a different
there's
chase,
pieces of that still
Absolutely.
arriving.
But I had to kill off the ego of the bodybuilder in order to chase these new chases.
Well, but isn't the bodybuilder still part of the chase to do the open class,
Absolutely.
to do the world? And
well, sorry, I answered it before you had finished that question. What was the question? I'm sorry, Eric.
are you still considering continuing to train, taking on open class, taking on world, the whole thing, or
no? I'm
done with it now.
Yeah, I'm retired. When I say I had to kill that ego off, it was the bodybuilder. It was Flex. It was that 19-year-old kid that came over to the US, chased his dream. I was able to achieve everything in the 212 class. And obviously my goal was to compete during the period of COVID. And I trained and I put everything into it, dotted every I, crossed every T. Just wasn't happening and wasn't part of my grand plan. No, I thought God was testing me. If you have faith, whatever it is. And I put so much into it. I had a lot of GI issues. I hired the best doctors, so much so that I could have bought a house somewhere. But in the end, I had to look back and think to myself, maybe there's something.
What's the next step?
Bigger. This is the next chapter. You know, there's a whole new mountain to climb, and there's a whole new horizon to look at if I climb up this next mountain. But are you willing to pour into that? And that was my dilemma. I give everything for this sport, and politically as well, because there's a lot of politics involved. And not once in all the time that I competed did that word retirement pop in my head. Not once, Eric. And I've got two torn shoulders, torn knees. Nobody knows. The moment you tell somebody about your injury, then they see it on stage. So I trained around all these issues and all these injuries all these years. And then it came down to what Conor McGregor done. Become the first ever champ. And that was my why. I really wanted to be the first ever champ.
What does that mean?
2 division champion. And then we found out Ali was pregnant with the second one. And I knew being the champ takes so much dedication, sacrifice, and a lot of time on the road. And that word retirement popped in my head. And I fought it, and I fought it.
Well, it's not even really retirement. It's transition.
Well, for me, it was retirement because I wasn't going to, it wasn't competing again.
Yeah, I understand. But I think healthier for me is I think entrepreneurs, because, it sounds to me like you've been an entrepreneur since you were a little kid. How many transitions have you had? You had track and field, transition to rugby, transition to weightlifting, right? Transition to bodybuilding, transition to US serious bodybuilding, transition to competition, transition, you had your businesses along the way.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Transition to gym, transition to 7-time Mr. Olympia, and now transitioning to the next chapter because you're still a young man.
Yeah.
And you're still an entrepreneur, so what that next chapter looks like, I don't think it resembles anything close to retirement. It might not be, not be competition.
Yeah.
When it comes to a bodybuilding competition.
Yes.
But there's going to be a new competition. There's going to be an entrepreneurial competition.
Yeah.
There's going to be something you got to be competing for.
I gotta watch my words around you because you will say retirement as that general analogy of
I don't understand it.
I couldn't do it. So when I say retirement, I have to change my word around you.
Transition.
But I kind of, to propel me through this story, I have to use the word, please, retirement.
Please.
So it popped up in my head and I fought it and I fought it and I fought it hard. And then I felt maybe if I talk to people who understand, which was my training partner, my wife, all of them said, well, in fact, my training partners, big boys, both started crying. Both of them were upset that I'm the mindset guy, that I've taught them all about this, and I'm the one saying retirement. So I know how they're very respectful. They picked their words. They were like, maybe it's not. And they were like, well, how about we just train the next couple of weeks? And now you've said it, maybe it's just a phase. And I'm okay, no problem. I didn't want to be negative Nancy. Let's train. And I just remember one of my training partners, shout out Dom Cardone and Rafael Brando, the Brazilian I told you. He turns to me in the middle of a training session. He goes, it's not there, is it? I go, no. And it was tough for me because I had all these other, again, I mapped out that grand plan. Like you said, you wrote the name on the pad. My goal was to be the first ever champ. And I had my mental pad and I had my physical goals too. And it was hard for me to be like, yeah, this is a dream that I may not be able to fulfill. And I have to be okay with it. So straight away, I had to kill that guy off. Because the guys who I was competing against, I'd already beat. And the guys who then became Mr. Olympia, I'd already beat. And then last year, the guy who I've also beaten, beat the other guy and became Mr. Olympia. So the two guys, first and second in the world, I've beaten them. It's great for business. It keeps my name relevant. But there was nothing worse, or so I thought, than seeing guys who I've already beat and having that burning desire to get back up there. So I had to work hard on kind of killing that guy and then putting my attention, just like you said, into new endeavors. So I had to find my new why, because every one of them Mr. Olympias, going back to the first one, full circle story, was a why. I had to reinvent my why every single year. And when my why, for the first time ever, got jeopardized, I was like, okay, I got to now rediscover myself, and in this process, put the bar up high again and chase this new why. So business for me was already excelling. I had the equipment company, I had the gym, I had many different other things that I poured into, but they didn't have me in my 100%.
Yep.
And as soon as I put myself back into the captain seat in and around my businesses, and I was like, okay. But you know what? Once all this happened, all the businesses scaled and excelled, I still was left a little bit empty. I was still chasing my why. And I've come to find out it's stage. It's the excitement of being around fans, the engagement. So I started doing public speaking and keynote speaking, and it's filled the void that I was chasing. And I'm truly enjoying it. Just to give you more of a backstory there, I grew up with a speech impairment. I had a lisp, horrible lisp. Wasn't confident when I was a kid talking around people.
You'd never know.
And I hate the word fake until make it, because that wasn't the case, but I had to put myself in scenarios and become confident. I know that I'm so far away from what I want to be, but that's okay. Just like bodybuilding, it's just turning up, being dedicated, having a plan of action and chasing these new little goals. So ticking these boxes of, perfecting more speech on stage, getting rid of ums and ahs. And unfortunately, it's part of my culture. We and ah a lot, right? In Scotland, they say we and ah. But getting used to being uncomfortable again. And that was my daily day on the bodybuilding stage in the gym. Uncomfortable was part of it. I loved it. And the uncomfortable part was only when you lifted the trophy up. And then you were on to the next. So I lived in uncomfort for so many years, chasing these goals and these dreams and these exciting new aspirations of ticking these boxes that many people thought that I'd never achieve.
And how often were you going to be even on that stage? It's a pretty short period of time.
Yeah.
And if you lost, you felt bad. Even if you won, you only felt good for a little bit, short period of time, right?
Yeah. It's crazy.
One thing that's interesting for me is, and this will sound controversial, but I think very specific goals can be dangerous. Like the double champ, as an example. Very specific. Like, I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to climb Mount Everest. I'm going to be a movie star or whatever, right? That's tied to a very specific thing can be dangerous.
Yeah.
So I grew up, I wanted to be a performer. I wanted to do like Broadway stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Sing and dance, all this stuff. Can you imagine?
Still time?
Yeah, there could be if I wanted to, but it would be a step down. So what happened to me is I was on the path. I was doing that's what I wanted to do. That's where I was going to go. I was going to go do that thing like you going to California. And I went and saw a Broadway show. And I saw one person in that show absolutely smash a performance like 1,000 times better than I could ever deliver anything at any time. And I thought for sure she was signed to some big record label deal or something. And I looked in the program and I saw that she was singing in a lounge on a cruise ship for the last 6 years.
Jeez.
And I went, oh,
Wow.
there's levels to this stuff. She's in a traveling Broadway show, doing 8 shows a week for a 1-bit part, probably getting minimum wage or close to it for her one song. I can't touch that. But now, this morning, I did a 1-man show for 90 minutes for 60,000 people in 26 languages.
Crazy.
This morning.
So
I still get to perform. You know, I still perform, and I perform weekly. I perform sometimes daily. I make a difference in people's lives. I'm not just entertaining. I'm giving them stuff. I get the tap on the shoulder, say, hey, 5 years ago, you said this thing.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. So I'm a performer, but I'm not on Broadway. The worst thing in the world that could have happened is if I went to Broadway and they gave me a lead in the biggest show on Broadway and I was 8 shows a week for $150,000 a year. And I had the longest running tenure and I got a Tony Award. That'd be the worst thing that ever happened to me, because I would have, instead of impacting millions, you know, I was able to reframe the goal. Right.
Yeah.
So instead of money, it could be significance, or like you said, you found some satisfaction in being able to get up on that stage and make a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah.
And find a way to communicate the lessons that you've learned along the way. You know, you went through this thing and you've lived at the top, and you can tell people how they can apply that to different areas of their business, you know?
Absolutely.
So I know it sounds sacrilegious for me to say a specific goal can be dangerous. It's not, it's about the pursuit of it.
Yeah.
It's about how you feel when you get there. It's about what's the next thing, you know, because I think our life is built in 2 phases. Phase 1 is about accumulation, get your stuff taken care of. And phase 2 is about contribution. How many people can you contribute to?
I love that.
And once you get the accumulation stuff reasonably done and you can focus on contribution, it's unending fuel. You know, you don't have to really even get mad about it to get there. The accumulation you kind of do sometimes, you know, to get where you want to go. But it's been an interesting journey for me that way, kind of reframing, because I lived in a hierarchical universe. It's about the next rank. It's about the next income. It's about the next pin level. It's about the next trophy. It's about, you know, achievement, and peer pressure and everything else. And when you let that go and it becomes about contribution instead, then it's a different game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm excited for your next chapter.
Thank you.
Yeah. And tell me this. Yeah. I want to go back for a moment and then I want to go forward.
Okay.
The back is, tell me some of the big lessons that you learned in the journey. If you had to go back and think of the handful of lessons that had the biggest difference, what separated you from the guy who was 2nd place, 3rd place, 4th place, 5th place? 10th place, the guy who trained in the same gym and didn't get on the stage, the guy who crapped out in regionals or whatever. I'm using the wrong
You
words.
did great.
But there had to be a difference. I'm sure there were some people that had physical and genetic advantages over you.
Yep.
What separated you as an artist from those people?
Couple of things. I've mentioned them already on the show, but definitely thankful for my upbringing and seeing and growing up in that small, humble town, Llanelli, Wales, South Wales.
Yeah. And
having grandparents who worked in coal mines and father worked in steel, having that blue collar work ethic, and realizing at a very young age that wasn't for me. I knew. So that seed, whatever it was deep rooted by the time that I started getting into the US and started hitting all this adversity. And I started really having to, at a very young age, create armor, because it was really me versus me in the mirror. All these, there would be internet warriors, keyboard warriors, right? Tell me this, that, and the other. They're all people that have already given up on their dreams. They just want you to fail also. So you just start developing this mindset. And I think that has been, honestly, the biggest tool that I've had in my box is mindset.
What do you mean by mindset? Thick skin or determination or
all of the above?
Focus?
All of the above. Because mindset ticks so many different boxes. Yeah.
What is it?
All of the above.
All of that?
All of the above. I just created this mindset of focus, intensity, determination, relentlessness.
But you had to say, I'm going to do what everybody else does plus. So you had to have some sort of measurement because they're doing the stuff too. You're going to do that plus, and they can't keep up with your plus.
I knew what I was doing back then. Nobody could do. And still to this day, even when I wasn't the champ and then when I became the champ, so there's levels to everything.
What's the stuff that you could do that nobody could do?
Fan interaction. First on the booth, last to leave. Like a lot of these guys will, let's just take the kid with a dream going into the gym for the first time. Oh, if I was to be the champion, I would be so great in my no.
Then they were jerks.
They turn into divas. It's like you get this self-appointed role, sunglasses and strutting your shit, security. I just was, okay, that's great. But my goal is to do my job on stage. Outside of that, pour into the fans. You're nothing without your fans and your followers. So there'd be 2 or 3 hour long lines that would wait for me. And I was always the guy. And this I wore with a badge of honor. On the Olympia week, I'd be the last guy to be kicked out of the arena. Physically kicked out by the arena staff saying, we got to get this place shut down. We got to transform this for Mr. Olympia tomorrow. But I was also the first in the booth. So when you lead from the front as a champion, I felt it was my honor, my duty to do this. Even though I had a big show the next day, there's also these opportunity for fans who don't have the money that saved maybe their only chance to meet you. And then their endless memories, and to your point, to the tap on the shoulder. I get it to this day. You met my kid 5 years, here's a photo, now look at him, he's 6 foot something. Pour into your fans. Pour into yourself. And as the years have gone by, have your whys. Why am I doing this? Because there's going to be more distractions than your whys. You just have to home in, laser focus on your why.
And there's no shame in a transition going towards the same purpose.
Yeah.
You don't have to climb Mount Everest in order to be able to achieve what that Mount Everest would be in some other form.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There might be a business supplying all the people who climb Mount Everest. There might be some passion connected to Mount Everest. Like you say, you have your gym, you have your supplements, you have all the different things that are attached to the stuff that you're doing. Go ahead.
And also I treated it like a business from the get-go. Now, a lot of these guys presume and assume this is going to be there for the rest of their life. And you have to treat every prep as if it's going to end tomorrow.
Hmm.
And that mentality served me so well to the point where
Urgency.
I knew that I was going to retire on my last Mr. Olympia. I told the world, I told everybody that wanted a year, including the judges. Because every year there was a new young kid or a new athlete from whatever side of the world that was going to beat me. And then I would go on the Grand Prix. So a lot of the Mr. Olympias never went to the Grand Prix. Because for me, to be the best, you have to make sure you are.
What's the Grand Prix?
The shows after the Mr. Olympia. So I would go to countries where some of these athletes didn't have visas to get into the United States, guys from Iran, from whatever. And I'd find a meeting ground, wherever it was, Korea, Czech Republic, Italy. I'll face you there. I will battle on stage. And then I could tell myself I was the best. And I done that every single year until the last year I competed, just to assure to the fans, to the world, and also more so myself, that I was the best before retiring. Now, I didn't know that it was going to be my last ever show when I put it out to the world, but I was able to be present for the first time. And I tell a lot of the young guys now, guys, be present, because I was so focused. So again, I'd win the show. Okay, I'd win the Mr. Olympia. Of course, there was elation and excitement. But then I was thinking about the next day.
Yeah.
I had to get my weight back down because I was off to Korea.
Right.
I had to get my weight back down because I was off it. So it was, you know, you get the after parties and stuff like this. So I turn up, Irish goodbye. I turn up late, then I'd Irish goodbye, because I had a job to do, and that was to compete next week. So I never was able to be present into the last. And I can tell you, walking up the stairs to the stage, I remember how cold it was. Putting my first foot on the stage because the unforgiving light, how hot it was. I could see the first 4 rows, and I could tell every face that was looking at me. And I had to be very conscious in knowing that this was going to be my last ever 212, and just feel what it was like for the other 6 that I weren't present for, because I was so in the zone. And as I get older now, that's really the message that I try to tell these guys is, be present, because I wasn't for the longest time. But again, to answer your question, what separated me from the pack was every time I had the chance to go home, I didn't. So what is the excuse? The later now I got into my career, I committed myself. I was here. I started making money as a bodybuilder. I started putting a roof on my head. I had a car. I had different levels every year. But I'm looking around, I'm thinking, I'm living the American dream. And I'm going to continue to live the American dream. And this is just part of the process. Failure is part of the process. And there was a lot of stuff that was happening back then. Again, a lot of people don't want to talk about, but I've learned more in my failures, as you've just said yourself, that no book could ever teach me, no mentor can ever teach me, because I lived it through my own eyes. And I've fallen on my face. Like you said, I've smelt the carpet, and I know what it smells like.
Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah.
And I don't want to smell it again. But I'm prepared. If I fail again, it is what it is.
Sure.
I've gone through so much worse. I mean, I know what the bottom feels like. I know what it looks like to see 0 in my bank account, or minus whatever it is, my bank account. I've also known what it's like to have no car because it got stolen outside the front of my house. I had to find a way, make a plan to fail, right?
Well, I want to close by asking you the topics that you speak on.
Okay.
But before I do that, I want to be selfish for a few minutes. And I've been 2 years on my fitness journey because I've neglected my body for most of my life. 2 years, and more serious in the second year than the first year. The first year was just doing everything possible not to get injured because I'd neglected my body for so long. Okay. Every workout was potential for injury. Wow. Every single one. I had leg issues and lots of leg issues, and I reconstructed my shoulder. And so I'm solid now, you know, like I'm not, I can go. Okay. I don't think I can unleash the dragon.
It's coming.
I'm worried about that.
Yeah.
But for me, it's about overall body fat for longevity and visceral fat. Those are my number 1, number 2. Number 3 is increasing the lean muscle mass. Okay. Those are the 3 things that I want to do. I'm at about 22% body fat now. 2 years ago, I was 34.
Wow. Congrats.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I want to get to 15.
Yep.
You're probably what? 9?
Maybe. I don't know.
Something
It's all
like that.
visual. I have never measured it.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to. It's obvious. I'm a ribeye. You're a fillet.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I have a lot of marbling going on. So give me some advice as to how to add lean muscle, how to lower overall body fat, and how to dispose of the visceral fat.
So everything's structure. As you know, you wouldn't be where you are if you didn't have structure. So,
well, they say how you do one thing is how you do everything. I think that's complete bullshit.
No.
I've done other things in my life completely amazingly perfect.
Yep.
Well, not perfect, but very effective. But fitness, nutrition has not been part of that thing. So
what would you say your Achilles heel is? We'll start from there.
Nutrition leaks probably.
Okay.
Because I work out with a trainer 5-6 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I've got decent protocols, and I've got a chef during the week, 5 days a week.
Yep.
But in the evenings, I have leaks. Restaurants, I have leaks. Weekends, I have leaks on the nutrition side. So that's what I would say is probably my biggest leaks.
Yeah.
And travel, sometimes I can fall out of the groove if I don't really plan it.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to be highly, highly aware of that. But I'm able to lift harder and push more.
Yeah.
And start to get some. I'm not seeing anything like what you're seeing, but I'm seeing an older body starting to tighten up.
You see it though.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the first step, right?
For sure. But for me, it's not about aesthetics.
Okay.
It's about longevity.
Yeah.
I want to get that body fat to 15. I want to get that visceral fat under a pound. That's what I want. And I want to get my lean muscle mass, which is about 152 pounds now. I want to get that to maybe 165 or so.
And the duration of time for you to do this is what? You have a goal? You have a date?
I don't have a date.
Okay.
It's a process.
I think if you give yourself parameters, some people work well with that.
Well, I've got, next big event I'm doing is in Thailand. We're 25,000 people.
Okay.
May 10th.
Right.
So I'm working to see how much progress I can make by then.
Yep.
Then I've got another big one in July in Minneapolis.
Yep.
End of July. That's a little bit more realistic. I want to really show up.
July is good.
And be able to do that. Coach me.
So first thing I would say is earn your food. Honestly, you're moving, you're grooving, you've got everything that you should do. You're very, structured in the sense that you have your trainer 5 days a week, right? 5 days a week. You have your food coming in, all cooked, clean, and you're doing some sort of cardio in the morning, correct?
No.
No.
What I'm doing is I get up, I have some protocols.
Right.
I do weight training, and then I'll do like a walking desk while I'm doing Zooms for cardio.
Okay. So in an ideal world, if you could do this,
I can do anything. It's just a matter of if I will.
I love starting the day with cardio. Get up, empty stomach, just start moving, grooving, start loosening yourself up in there. And it's a very good space for me to get into to program my day. I mean, for yourself, it could be 30 minutes to an hour, just steady pace cardio, nothing crazy. Just get your body loose.
What heart rate?
Steady pace cardio, steady pace. So
for me, 120, 125.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. Just getting your body, not your like out of breath. Yeah. Something that's going to raise your, your core temperature, aerobic. And when you're coming off the treadmill, you can feel like you've had some sort of work done, but it's steady pace. No food. Start the day off there, and I love to get on my phone. And before I know it, my treadmill's shutting down. But I also plan my day out. I'm getting into a very good sort of mental state. I get a lot of work done on the treadmill. I'm able to do it. But again, at this point when I'm out of my life right now, that is not the cardio I was doing when I was competing for the Mr. Olympia. Nor are you competing for the Mr. Olympia. So
what were you doing then?
I mean, it was quote unquote steady pace cardio, but it was very fast walking and it was stairs. So I had everything in my house. But one of the best things for me was loading up on all my clothes. I double pants, put about
Just
6,
sweat
8
like crazy.
layers, and I lived in South Florida, Boca Raton. So I was out in the road, and people thought I was nuts. I'd know loads of people go past me, beeping the horn, I'd wave, and they still talk to this day because I was out in the morning. Not only was I getting my heart rate up, but I was creating a natural thermos, sweating. So I'd do that over treadmill all day long. And then I'd go back and I'd kind of top myself up on jumping on the stairs at the very end. Sometimes jump in the sauna, which again, I created through the sport.
Still loaded up with all the clothes on?
I mean, there's some images of me in the sauna with my clothes on.
Yeah.
But yeah, both.
Okay.
But I was Mr. Olympia. Right now, it's steady pace cardio, health, wealth, and all of the above.
Yep.
So what my mentality is, earn your food.
Mm-hmm.
So once you've done your cardio, you can eat your first meal.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you wanted to train, let that food and that process do its work. I've trained fasted. I've done it always. I mean, I trained fasted yesterday. Just got a pre-workout in and I went and filmed. But I feel like starting my day off with cardio, then getting my first meal in, or 2 meals, then training is a winning recipe for me. And but the cardio on an empty stomach, I've seen that do wonders. So imagine it's all excess calorie burning. So you're starting off empty stomach, you're kind of burning off, getting into the glycogen, into the body fat. Then you eat accordingly for your next workout, that purpose-driven meal, which you can create. You and your trainer, then you get into that training session. You're fueling your body for, and then you're fueling your body after, whatever that choice of food is after that. And everything, then your day is done. Your day is done with your training. It's gone for the first half of the day.
Do you want to have some sort of deficit? I mean, what do you want to do as far as protein, grams of protein for your body weight and all that?
So it's a fine line for yourself because you are
at 60,
but also you're performance-based speaking.
Sure.
So you have to have a lot of mind clarity.
Yeah.
You know, you killing yourself in a deficit and then you get up and speak in front of 60,000 people.
Right.
Again, you're not going to be what everybody wants to see.
Right.
So you walk that fine line. And I understand the difficulty in doing that because you want to fuel your body for that mind clarity too.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a way. There is a way, and I was able to do it myself. Fats, a great tool for brain function. There's a lot of key, fats that I would choose over others.
You do balance? You do keto? Do you do?
I've done it all.
I mean, is there any or whatever feels good for your body?
Yes.
Just test your own body?
I would say there's so many diets out there.
Yeah.
The best diet is really minimizing. First of all, analyze what you're eating because that is going to get you in shape. You can train until the cows come home, but if you're not eating the right foods, you're going to look like the same person. And then what happens is you lose the enthusiasm for getting into the gym. It's like, nothing's changing, But what you don't realize or you neglect to tell yourself is, I had a McDonald's last night. Or I had a Chinese or whatever it is, right? Whatever your poison is. Not literal poison. Pick your poison. But having the understanding then that if you have structure to your day, your body's going to change fast, right? Again, starting with that cardio in the morning. Every person can respond differently. There's no one way to get in shape. Keto, you mentioned. There's all these new diets, these new fads in a sense, but they all have their own purpose. People want to lean into something that they want to pour themselves into. Bodybuilding was a very simplistic diet. KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right? It was high protein, minimum carbohydrates, or mediocre carbohydrates, minimum fats. And that structure I learned through bodybuilding really is what I use in the daily now. I kind of limit my carbohydrates or the energy source, whether it comes in fats or carbohydrates towards the later end of the day. And also, thankfully for me, I didn't have an appetite still to this day. I know it's not what people want to hear, but the opposite for me was I had to force feed myself. So force feeding is much harder in my eyes than being hungry.
If I could figure out a way to only eat when I was hungry, my life would change. I eat for 8 million reasons, and hunger is way down the list.
I can help there. I can help. But again, it's every muscle you put in your body. Think of it like further education, right? Having a mentor.
How much muscle mass can somebody add after 60?
It all depends. I mean, now with technological advantages and
I want to add.
Yeah.
I want to add.
Everybody
lean muscle.
There's so much knowledge now compared to what it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that I've seen people truly transform themselves. In fact, I seen a guy train who owned a pub in Wales that got back into the gym after having like 30 years off. I mean, he was a pub owner, so you can imagine. He won the Mr. Universe. So it's all what you want to get out of it. That's the extreme.
Yeah.
And I understand for yourself, you want to have
2 hours a day is enough
training or in general. I think that suffice. As long as you're putting in the work, right? Workload is everything. What does that 2 hours look like?
Yeah.
Because if it's 2 hours of BS and you're picking up your phone in between and
I do
and
a lot of
whatnot,
that.
then that's the distraction you don't need. But unfortunately for you've got real life going on. Right?
No, I mean, it's all an excuse.
Turn it upside down then.
Yeah.
And allow yourself to be selfish during that time, because you wouldn't answer your phone when you're on stage.
Sure. Fair enough.
And that's the mentality you have to have going into the gym, because you are after now and you're demanding a change.
Yeah. I need my body to be congruent with my mind.
But you're giving yourself the distractions not to.
Yeah.
And you're doing all this work and all these small, minute things.
Yeah. They
all add up.
They all add up.
And that's why I created a private gym, because every gym that I trained in that was open to the public, I was allowing myself to have this distraction.
Sure.
I became part of the show and tell. I mean, they done meet and greets. I turned up one day, there was like 100 people waiting for me. I think I told you this story. When I created the private facility, I eliminated all distractions. We weren't allowed to bring phones in. And that one phone that we did bring in was only to be used on the top sets, and we turned it back upside down.
Nice.
So in this case now, for yourself, distractions are going to be everywhere. Whatever it is, you just allow them to happen, or you can just realize what it is. Let's just take the phone, for example. Look, it's upside down because I know it's going off, as is yours.
Yep.
But if I picked it up, how rude am I to do this in the middle
to your
of
own body, right?
And
yeah.
So you're paying for it physically. You're also paying for it to have a trainer come in. You're paying for the chef. You're paying for this. And what you're paying for then is not the results by having these small little things that are allowing you to be
tighten it up.
You could
tighten
pick up that phone and it could be like $1 million, several $1 million, issue, or it could be a family issue, and then you're gone. That mindset that you brought into the gym is gone. So it's just allowing yourself to be sharp and savage when the time needs to be done, and just to have a non-compromise. You've got to be selfish in the gym. Outside of that, you can do whatever you want. But if you're trying to demand a change, then demand it. And right now, obviously, I'm in a different change. I was 260 walking around on my biggest. And I had to work my ass off, literally, to get that next chapter off.
Wow.
So now I'm 60 pounds lighter than what I am. And I'm okay about it. I know we spoke a little bit about these bodybuilders who kind of get caught up in the brand, or getting caught up in what they used to look like. It was the old version of me. It was the feather in the hat. And now with all the other things that I'm doing, and well, they basically told me I was too big for TV. So I was like, okay, I'll diet down. And then they told me, oh, you could put a little bit of weight on. You got a little bit too small now. So these opportunities are coming because I asked the questions and they've allowed myself to make the change. But the cardio and everything else, that was hard for me to get that muscle off that I've got to
bust
my ass off to it. But that was the first thing for me to start my day on, because training is stimulation, and I'm not trying to create that muscle, keep that muscle on. I was trying to burn it off and still maintain a certain physique. So I had to change my training around, and my love is going to the gym. So to tell myself, okay, you want to be in this new chapter of life and chase these new endeavors and start doing media and TV and speaking on stage, you've got to not only change the mentality for the bodybuilder you once were, but also the physicality that people see you as right now.
Yeah. And
let the words and the stories and the conversations of life do the rest. And this is why we're here, right? It's this new chapter we're in, and And again, I'm being very blessed to meet you. And
no,
very
I
inspired and-
listen. I appreciate the coaching, and for everybody else that's listening, if you're still listening, thanks for going through it. If you're a former fat ass like myself, hopefully that helped you as much as it helped me getting the focus where it needs to be. I would like at some point for us to do another podcast in the gym because I need to see the dragon.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I need to see it.
I mean, you got to remain friends, my friend.
I need to see it. I need to see the dragon. I need to do a proper workout, total focus, see what's possible to do without hurting myself. So let's set up a time to do that. But talk as we kind of wrap up.
Yeah.
What are the topics that you speak on? Who are the kind of organizations that you speak to? Mm-hmm. And how can people find out about you?
Wow. So I've been speaking at a lot of different, I would say first for me, I was speaking within my industry, the fitness industry, trying to tell the next up and comers about many of the subjects we've spoken about right now. And also looking at yourself as a brand, as a business, because a lot of these young, inspiring athletes, male and female, don't. You've got to see yourself as the business owner. And again, this vessel that you're, again, if you're consuming food, why not get paid for it? If you're drinking a shake, why aren't you not endorsed by it? I got this can of Monster here, and that's one of the reasons I'm the only bodybuilder to be ever sponsored by Monster. They told me one and only. And that came because of that mindset. But again, you've got to put yourself in different rooms around different people to, again, just be around the knowledge and get away from the mundane conversation that we're all used to. How big is your arm? How can I get my arms bigger? You want to evolve? Put yourself in a room full of business. The guy's talking about scaling and investing and losing opportunities. That's what I was. And I've put myself one foot in when I was a bodybuilder. But right now, the stage is a combination of all of the above and transitioning from the world that I once was. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting into some, and I have spoken in front of some incredible rooms that are intrigued about the mindset of how I got there and using
how they can apply it
into the sales, into whatever else. I just came back from Brazil, as you know, I was there for 14 days and I've done the same thing out there in translation, which you know all about as well. Yeah, it's very difficult to keep the enthusiasm and get it translated, but people are there to listen. Mm-hmm. So you adapt and overcome. And you got to remember too, I'm very privileged to be in this situation now to give back. So, and there's a lot more opportunities. I hired a speaking coach. I'm trying to do a lot more, get my P's and Q's. One thing I will not change is this accent.
No, don't ever change it. It's part of my DNA. Come on, don't do it.
Well, a lot of people, I don't mind repeating myself, but it's very prideful for me to have this accent and be able to.
That's who you are. Talk. If you changed it, it would make me mad.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, good.
I've been here 20 years. So
Good. How can people find out about you?
Flex_Lewis on Instagram.
Flex_Lewis.
Yeah, on Instagram.
On Instagram.
There's a couple of fake ones, but I've got the
any website?
It's going to be flexlewis.com.
Flex News.
Flexlewis.com.
Flexlewis.com.
See, that's the first time you didn't understand me. So we done well.
Oh, it was only news.
Yep.
Flexlewis.com.
And then there's various different things. I'm on YouTube and Twitter and everything else. So I pour myself into a lot of different social medias. And then obviously my businesses, I got the Dragon's Lair. And before we
I got to come over and see the gym.
You've got to. I mean, your son beat you to it, right?
Yeah, I know it.
So we've got the businesses.
Well, we're going to come over and we're going to shut the gym down and I want to see the dragon.
Yeah.
And we're going to do another podcast interview in there.
And I'll tell you the story.
And I want to see like the full thing. So.
Absolutely. Well, we've got
just don't kill me.
I will never.
Just don't break me. Just don't break me in half.
I'm retired now, so you don't kill me.
Okay. Yeah.
But we've got the Arsenal Strength, which is one of my businesses. Whether that's so again, when I retired from bodybuilding, I pulled myself into all these businesses. So now we're the fastest growing equipment company. The Dragon's Lair is the #1 destination gym in the entire country. We have a number of day passes that come in, and it's turned into that experience that Gold's Gym was once for me. When I've got all the Vegas celebrities and athletes who have literally moved to become part of this culture I've created, and that's called the Dragon's Lair. And there's many other things too, but. Again, for myself, if you come to my gym, I'd love to meet you. I'm a guy that loves handshakes and high fives and the random hugs, depends on who you are. But I keep myself as accessible as I can.
Yeah.
And I've always been, again, a man of the people in a sense, right?
Yeah.
I love that. So if you end up coming to Vegas and you want to train in a gym,
come to Vegas, check him out. If you need a speaker, check him out, reach out to him. Let's help him in the next chapter.
Thank you.
Of his contribution in the world.
I really appreciate
Flex, I appreciate you coming out.
I appreciate it too. We've got so many more stories for part 2.
Yes, part 2 in the gym.
Yeah.
I have to see the dragon. Yeah. I was born in the year of the dragon, so I have to see the dragon.
It's the year of the dragon this year too.
I know. I was born in this year. So come on. So Flex, I appreciate you, man. And
I appreciate you. And thank you for all the hospitality. I know I'm new here in Vegas as the last 3 years, but thank you for welcoming me into that last event, not last event, but the Patrick Bet-David event, and getting to see the behind the scenes of what you've created. And it's an unbelievable thing you've got, and highly motivated every time I'm around you. So from me to you, no smoke, no BS. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to doing much more in the future.
We're just warming up, brother.
Let's go. Thank you.
So that's our conversation with Flex Lewis. I hope you check him out wherever you can find him on social. If you have a need for a speaker, consider him as part of your agenda if you're hosting some sort of an event. Great guy. If you're in Vegas, go check out Dragon's Lair. Check out everything that he's doing. Good guy, big heart, lots of information, tons of wisdom. And if you got value from this, please make sure that you share it with somebody that might also get value from it. Pay it forward. I think we're all here together to try and learn. I think success leaves clues. And all of these different journeys, we can find the common thread that we can all use for our own path to success. So until next time, have a great day, and I'll see you soon.